Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You're watching CodeRay, and if you're new, I'm currently an incoming software engineer at a FANG company, and on my channel, I help you to navigate and succeed in your tech career. So for today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about my computer science degree from Vanderbilt University, and I actually didn't finish my computer science degree, and I only did computer science at Vanderbilt for 1 year because I actually transferred to another school. But for this video, I wanted to talk just about my computer science experience from Vanderbilt University, what I liked about it, what I disliked about it, and some of the things that I would do differently, or just advice that I would give for you if you're starting out in college or you're going to Vanderbilt. To start off, when I first went into Vanderbilt, I was actually not computer science, and I was chemical engineering along with pre-med. And this was important for a lot of reasons because in the School of Engineering for Chemical Engineering at Vanderbilt University, I was required to take a few computer science classes. And so the first computer science class that I decided to take at Vanderbilt, which was one of the core required classes, was called Programming and Problem Solving. And so I was also pretty excited to take a class like this because I was asking around a lot of my friends about what computer science would be like, because I was thinking about different routes to take besides medicine, and a lot of people had really high regards for computer science, and so I was excited to see what computer science would be like. And essentially for programming and problem solving at Vanderbilt, what we did was they taught in Java, and essentially they basically taught you how to solve specific problems. I think the first few weeks you just went over what Java was, and then you went over how to write Java code, and then you just started doing various assignments in Java, and they were pretty easy assignments at the time. But for someone who was new in programming and with Java and didn't know any code at all, it was very daunting because there was a lot of things that I didn't know how to do, that the teacher was just do this or look it up if you have a problem. But for people who are new to computer science, it's really hard because you don't really understand how to think as a coder and how to find answers on your own. And one of the problems I actually had with that class was that the computer science world is very frightening, because when you first start out, there's so many different languages that are out there, and there's so many different paths that you can take within computer science. And basically the class didn't really teach what was the basics of computer science, why do you need to learn computer science, or what paths can computer science create, or even why learn Java in this specific computer science class. It just directly went into, I'm just going to teach you specific Java details and then how to code in Java. And so that was one thing I didn't really like about the class. And also for a lot of the assignments in the class, it was really hard to do because I understand that you can go to TA and office hours in order to try to figure out how to do the problem, but a lot of times I mean, this was my experience, so a lot of you guys might have different experiences, but at Vanderbilt I would just go to a TA, and instead of actually teaching me how to do the problem, their questions were very trivial at the time, but for a newcomer it may seem very hard. They would just do it and say oh, this is how to do it, without really giving an explanation of why exactly it was. But it also might have been the problem of the TAs at the time. But one thing I did have an issue with was the fact that there was very little teamwork going on, and I totally understand that schools don't really want you to cheat or copy off of other people's work, but I feel teamwork and collaboration is such a huge part of programming that I feel there should be some sort of projects in which the teachers allow the students to work together. And when I was taking programming problem solving at Vanderbilt, really all the projects were basically you just do it by yourself. And if you didn't really understand it, you had to go to TA office hours, and that's basically it. And it was just very boring, very brutal, and a lot of people actually didn't really like the class, so they dropped out of the class because it was just, it didn't really create an understanding of what computer science was all about. It didn't create this passion of computer science, you can use the code to create new things or solve a problem in the world. It was mostly just oh, let's just try to solve this math problem with Java or with what we learned at the time. After taking programming and problem solving, I didn't really enjoy computer science more at all. I just was oh my gosh, I don't think I'll like this in the future. But I decided to take the second class that came with it because a lot of people said that second class was really important, and it is a really important class, and it's called Data Structures and Algorithms. And algorithms and data structures is extremely important for you for interviewing and for basically like a lot of skills in comp sci. One thing that I really didn't like about the class at the time was because the class was taught in C++, and not that I have anything against C++, but it was quite hard as like a newcomer into computer science. I'm confused why they switched from teaching Java to teaching C++ in algorithm data structures. I wish that they would have continued teaching Java because it was like the necessary next class after the first class that I took, but they completely switched languages, which I thought was kind of confusing because now I had to learn a whole new language. And C++ is a lot harder for me than Java because it's a lower level. I really liked the teacher and I really liked his passion for the class, which made me enjoy computer science more. But I felt like the problems that we had and the assignments that we had were a bit, I guess they could have been better because basically the teacher told us to implement specific data structures in C++. Instead of actually like using it to like create problems. Like we had to define all of the different classes that maybe like a queue had, like the push and the pop functions. So we had to implement those functions directly, but we didn't really use a queue at all. So after implementing a queue, that was like assignments, so we just had to implement all these data structures, but we didn't really use those data structures. So I was like still confused on like what those data structures were. But one thing I really did like about the class is that it really did provide like a basis of understanding like edge cases in computer science. And I think edge cases are really important because edge cases, like you have to, as a coder, you have to think in a way of like making sure that you hit every edge case once you solve a problem. And also you have to make sure that your code is easy to understand. And I really liked that class for one thing was because that the teacher made sure that the students had to get all of the edge cases in order to basically do well in the project, and the students also had to comment and make sure that each variable that they list was basically an important name. So essentially you can't be like variable or var or just int x. You had to say like int and what that variable actually did. And I think that's really helpful because it just paved the way for me to think about edge cases always, and also for me to write code that's easy for other people to understand, and that helped me out at my internships and also for my interviews. Some of the things that I would keep in mind when just as a new computer science student going into like college is that you should always like think about like edge cases. You should always use Stack Overflow, always ask TAs for help, and you should always write code that's legible. I know it takes like a lot longer to write code that's clean and that people can understand, and it's a lot easier for you to just write code that just var x and just like go about your own code. But I think in the long run it really helps you because once you write a lot longer code, then you basically know what parts are going wrong, and it helps you debug a lot more easily. Or once you come back to code that you haven't seen in a long time, it really allows you to like understand what the code is doing a lot better if you write cleaner code. So I wanted to also talk about some extracurriculars that I did at Vanderbilt that I think that for a student who's going into computer science in college can benefit from. I really didn't like doing computer science in school, so I wanted to see what it would be like outside of school. And so I did stuff like I did a club called Vandy Apps, which is the computer science club at Vanderbilt. And I didn't really like that club that much. I remember back then like we didn't really do that much based on any projects. I thought it was going to be a club where you work with other people to create new projects together, but it was almost like we didn't really do that much, and it didn't really help improve my passion for computer science at all. But the thing that did really help me in improving my passion for computer science was a club called CodeIgnite. And what CodeIgnite was that basically it was a group of students, and we would go to elementary and middle schools around the college, and we would help teach the kids computer science ranging from Scratch to Java. And I really loved teaching the kids, and a lot of the kids were really into computer science and making stuff, and I think that's one thing that helped create my passion for computer science, using it to help others and using it to solve other problems. Another thing that I didn't really like was the fact that I guess for my personal experience, I didn't really find a lot of kids who were into like collaboration and like working on a lot of different projects together. A lot of the kids were kind of doing their own thing, and maybe it was just my personal experience. I really did try to branch out, but it was just that like it was hard to find kids who would work with you on a side project. And you know how like you always find these people like creating startups together or doing stuff together, and I was trying to sort of find that or just making a project, and it was kind of hard because it almost felt like everyone was kind of doing their own thing in comp sci. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.